everybody, my name is Jo and I love to read. Today I'm going to be doing a video all about why I DNF'd City of Swords by Mary Hoffman. I wanted to do a review video about it, which is what essentially this is, but I didn't want to label it a review because I do think it's a bit misleading that I DNF'd this book at the 140 page-ish mark. So therefore there's stuff that happened towards the end that I'm sure would have affected how I felt about it, whether for the good or for the bad, but I didn't actually even push through to finishing it. But I do have a lot of feelings and I wanted to talk about this. So hence this is my video. I think it may actually be my first review video. I'm not sure, I'll have to go back and have a look. If not, I'll link it up above, but I'm pretty sure this is the first ever book that I'm reviewing on my channel and it's going to be a gripe negative thing. Whoops. But unfortunately this book didn't hold up. This review, just to let people know, will contain spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled then don't watch this video, but if you don't care or you have read this book then continue to watch it and let me know how you felt down in the comments below. This is the 6th book in the Stravaganza series by Mary Hoffman. It is a teen series and I did really enjoy the earlier books when I was younger. I can't really remember books 5 and 4, but I know books 1 to 3 I really enjoyed in my teen years. I hadn't ever read City of Swords before and I was deciding to continue it on, pretty excited to finish this series even as an adult, but I would be lying if I said that I wasn't a bit apprehensive about whether I was going to enjoy this book or not. I have to go let my dog out. Thankfully, when I was actually starting this book, there was nothing about the writing style that really annoyed me. I didn't feel like it was too juvenile. Occasionally there would be clunky sentences, but on the whole, it was still really interesting and really good for my adult brain, which is always a relief when you're reading a book for the first time as an adult. Unfortunately, what disappointed me and made me ultimately decide not to read this book was the way the plot was handled and particularly the character development as well. The Stravaganza series features a different main character per book, but all of these main characters have two things in common. One, that they're unhappy with their lives for some reason. Previous things have been, the first book the main character had cancer, and then in the second book the main character was bullied by his stepbrother, things like that. And also they all come across an object that when they hold it when they fall asleep they get transported into a country called Talia, which is an alternative world Italy back in the 1800s. Same sort of setup with this thing, but I just feel like the plot and the characters weren't developed as much in this one. Our main character is called Laura and her unhappiness that is happening in her life is that she has depression, and at times this has led her to self-harm. And as we freshly come into the book, she is self-harming, and a lot of the early conflict surrounds around her not being able to transport back into this world because she goes a couple of times to begin with and fixes things and helps and things like that, but because of course the main characters come to this world for a reason and they're supposed to be there to help stop some evil thing happening, so she goes there a couple of times. But then in her real life she cuts herself so badly that she has to go to the hospital, and then her parents end up discovering that she is self-harming, and her object that would transport her to Talia is actually a little penknife that's made into the shape of a sword, and it is as sharp as a real sword. So that of course by her good parents gets taken off her so that she can't self-harm herself with that. I just want to be clear that I'm not an authority on the topic of depression or self-harm. I have a little bit of mild social anxiety that has never actually been formally diagnosed. Therefore I can't actually speak to how accurate this book was, and any comments that I'm going to continue to make on this point about the self-harm or the depression is not something that should be taken as gospel. And I don't know whether this has gone through any sensitivity readers, but I feel like just as someone who has done a little bit of research, even though I haven't really experienced, it's not accurate. And I was actually horrified by some of the things that happened to move the plot forward, but showed that Laura's friends don't actually care about Laura at all. Her parents, of course, when they find out, get her to go to therapy. And Laura's a bit like, oh, you know, therapy, I don't want to go, which, you know, that seems fairly realistic to me. But she goes once, nothing really happens, and then suddenly, even though all of this, the bit that I read is happening in the span of a couple of weeks, like 2 weeks, she's cured. She doesn't want to self-harm anymore. She doesn't know why she did it in the first place. She's all good and dandy just like that. And that's the bit that I found really frustrating in her real life, because from I don't want to say from my experience, but from my limited knowledge on the subject, it doesn't just go away like that. Like, just because your family finds out and you go to therapy once doesn't mean that you're instantly feeling better and in a better state of mind to the point where you can be trusted with sharp things again. And sorry, was that an incredibly was that a rude, offensive thing to say? Again, I don't know. But the point that I'm trying to make with this is that, so she can't get back to Talia because her parents have taken away this penknife that's as sharp as a real sword and looks like a miniature version of a real sword. And so her friends are like, oh no, stuff is happening in the city and you have to be there to like save it because that's what happened to all of us, because she's friends with the previous Stravaganza, which is what they're called when they can go. She's friends with the previous Stravaganza, the previous main characters, and they were like, we got put into this world to do some good things, to stop some bad things from happening, so you must have to go back too. And even before they know that she is fully healed and that she is fully in the right mindset, they come up with this plan to get her sword penknife back. And not only did them as teenagers do that, but an adult helps her do that. And it really frustrated me because I was like, this poor girl has just gone through this ordeal and you are essentially, potentially putting her back in harm's way by giving her this thing again that she can hurt herself with. And that just, it really frustrated me. And again, I'm not an authority on this subject. Maybe I'm being incredibly insensitive and incredibly rude about it, but I just felt like there was no conversation about this being a bad thing. It was just, yep, we found out, you went to hospital, you had one therapy session, and now you're cured. Just like that. And even, I feel bad even saying I'm cured. I don't know. Clearly I needed to do some more research before doing this review, but here we are. I just felt that the topic of her mental illness was just completely blazed over. It was something that they put in the plot for a plot device, but they never actually were able to, they didn't actually do anything solid, and they weren't actually genuine, meaning the author wasn't actually genuine with creating like a proper conversation about the whole subject. Sucks that my light has faded because that was really good lighting there for a second and now the sun's just gone over. I need to start filming like at lunchtime and not in the early afternoon. Potentially, if that was all that had annoyed me about the plot, I could have continued on and enjoyed it, but what really frustrated me was when we were actually in Talia, in this alternate world, there was the worst insta-love that I think I have ever read in my reading life. The worst. Laura is 16 and she has one interaction with a 23 or 5-year-old guy in Talia, and she decides she's in love. They have another interaction, she's still in love. These two interactions were so tiny and they did hardly anything to build a connection that it was so damn frustrating for Laura to be mooning all over him and having her think, I'm so in love with him, I don't know what to do. And here's the thing, I think they were trying to do like an enemies romance because he is the enemy of the story. And it was really frustrating because Laura doesn't know him. She doesn't know why he's opposing the ruler. We don't even know why as the reader. You get to be with him without anybody else because it's third person. And I don't even know why, aside from the fact that he's just going, I should be the next ruler, I'm the son. So the start of this book in the Talia world is that the current ruling king passes away and his daughter, who is the next in line, the oldest child, is going to ascend, but she's unmarried. And Ludo, this gem of a person, comes in and is like, hey, I'm the illegitimate son, but I'm older than you, so I want to rule, right? We're back in the day where illegitimacy was actually taken seriously because this is the 1800s, so you don't really have a claim. But secondly, there is a bunch of old men who don't like the fact that a woman is going to be ruling an unmarried woman, though technically she's actually a widower, so that is not fair, but she is widowed at the time that this happens, so there's no man to rule with her. And it was really frustrating because I know for some characters that's a legitimate reason why they want to take over, but it didn't feel genuine with Ludo, because half the time he's trying to rule and he's trying to tell them, no, I'm the ruler, this is me, I'm supposed to be the ruler because I'm his son. And then the other half the time he's trying to be like, oh, but I'm a good person, like I want to be friends with my sisters, I didn't mean to do this, I just didn't know when else to introduce myself. But literally he introduces himself right when they're saying, does anybody challenge the princess for the rule? And he's like, I do! And yet you wanted to be their friend? Like, he just feels like such a confused character, and I feel like they were trying to get sympathy for him and they were trying to make him a good character so that you wouldn't feel weird that Laura decides to be in love with him. It didn't work. It frustrated the crap out of me, and I just found myself not caring about this story, not caring about this city, this war, because this stupid 16-year-old girl, she wasn't even sure where her allegiances lie because she's suddenly in love with Ludo even though she has no reason to be in love with him. Like, we were on the good side of the princess and he was all like, she was all like, oh, well, I don't really know. I don't know either of them, but I'm in love with him. So, you know, I don't know if I want to go and come into this war and try and stop all these people from being killed because I want to side with him. And it was just so frustrating. So this is it. This is the reason why the self-harm stuff at the beginning annoyed me, because it felt like it wasn't done genuine. And then what really ticked it off is the insta love, so then it made me not care about the rest of the story. I did I did skip forward to read Ariana and Luciano's wedding because Luciano is the main character in the first book that I really enjoyed, and he meets Ariana and there's this big build up of their romance throughout the series and them getting married and finally getting to be together, and finally we get to go to their wedding, but even that wasn't that good. Like, it was good to see it, but it just felt really rushed and just hacked on there, and someone dies in the middle of it and all this, like, it just... This unfortunately wasn't the conclusion that I was hoping for. I'm pretty sure I'm going to unhaul this book, but I'm glad to have gotten my thoughts out, and thank you guys so much for listening. Alrighty, I am done. Don't forget to like this video if you've liked it, to comment down below if I've inspired you to. Have I read this? Have you read this? Did you enjoy it? What didn't you enjoy it? Have a discussion with me. If you really enjoyed it, I'm still happy to hear your reasons why. I like having friendly discussions with people about things, even if we have opposing opinions. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more from me. I post videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and I will see you guys in my next clip. Ooh, in my next video. Saying clip because I do vlogs all the time. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!